India Today Global's Pranay Upadhyay is now joining us with more details on this. Pranay, give us more details on what all was discussed in this meeting between Zelensky and Donald Trump. Both the leaders claim that they are very, very close to an end to this war.
Absolutely, Anjali. And what Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has posted on his social media clearly shows that the negotiations have approached towards a peace deal. However, there are further rounds still awaited. But President Zelensky thanked President Donald Trump for the initiative for the peace talks and the negotiations. And the rounds of negotiation preceding to this meeting in Florida, Steve Witkoff, Kushner had a rounds of meeting with not only Volodymyr Zelensky, they had a rounds of meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin as well. And ahead of meeting with President Zelensky of Ukraine, President Donald Trump had a phone call with President Vladimir Putin of Russia. And now President Emmanuel Macron of France, who was also part of these negotiations and the discussions, he thanked the American side, and he also posted on his social media in a statement that in few weeks there will be a conference, there will be a meeting of all the willing parties to have ensure the security guarantees, which have been a cause of concern for the Ukrainian side. So clearly, there are negotiations approaching, and to find a solution for a war which is about to complete 4 years in February 2026. So there are intensified efforts to find a peace solution, and the 20-point peace plan, proposed by U.S. President Donald Trump.
Right, Pranay, but the leaders on one hand claim that they are very close to the end of this war, but they've also claimed that there are some details that still remain unresolved. Could you give us more details on these points that remain unresolved?
Actually, the points which are still, considered as a sticky point or the points of contention are the security guarantees. How the security guarantees will be worked out, because the Russian side has to agree if the security guarantee has, involvement of the Ukrainian the European countries to ensure the deployment of troops, the rebuilding of Ukraine, the use of the seized Russian assets, and above all, the most important thing is the concession of the Ukrainian territory. How much Ukrainian territory will be conceded, if at all Ukraine has to agree on that. So these are the issues which the nitty-gritty of the nuts and bolts of the negotiation have to work out, these details.
All right, Pranay, thank you for those details and for that context. We're also being joined by my colleague Rohit Sharma from Washington, D.C. Rohit, give us more details on this meeting between Zelensky and Donald Trump, after which there's a hope that the war between Russia and Ukraine can be ending very soon.
So, there was what Zelensky called was a very good meeting that happened between Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner last week. And, that followed up with this meeting before the end of the year, I should say. Again, the meeting lasted for more than 2 hours. President Trump had talked to President Putin before he could meet Zelensky. And then I think he's shown more optimism as to be able to end this war, which, again, has been his #1 priority after becoming the president. He even touted the fact that he could end this war in less than 24 hours with few phone calls. So I think it was very interesting to see that this meeting happening right now. President Trump, as we all know, is in Florida at Mar-a-Lago. He's not in Washington, D.C. He's trying to spend time with his family for Christmas and New Year's, but he's still prioritizing this very important peace plan that was started by Steve Witkoff and has been now handled by both Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. The good thing is that Zelensky sounded optimistic. He believes that this could work out. The other unfortunate part is we do not know when. As President Trump himself said, there's no deadline. He wants to see this war end. He wants to bring peace, but there's no deadline. He hopes that this war could end very soon. Now, we also heard from Pranay, he was talking about how European leaders would be coming to Washington, D.C. very soon in January, and there could be more follow-up conversations. But at least, we've come a long way since the first time we saw Zelensky and President Trump meeting way back on February 18th of this year. when we saw how he was talked down by Vice President Jance and President Donald Trump. So looks like things are going the right direction, according to President Trump. 90, it's confirmed like 95% agreement on important stuff. But the territorial things, the security guarantees, I think those are the big holding points. And also the fact that the Russians have to vet this plan and they have to agree to it. So we'll have to wait and watch, Anjali, what this becomes. But I think President Trump is doing his best to get a peace deal in order, and he wants to do it ASAP.
Right. Rohit, talking about the security agreement, Donald Trump has made an important point that he expects the European Union backing also. And he has been very cautious with his words, saying that only 95% of this has been agreed upon.
Yes, and as I was saying, the territorial issues, right? Donbas, it's a very, very important region, and I think President Trump said that out in his press conference after the meeting, that it's a very tough question. What will become of that? I think it's very important for, I think, both Ukraine and Russia to negotiate on that one big sticking point. So I think Zelensky is again, he's urged, his European partners and the US to look at it, and there are very, very, sincere doubts that the Ukrainians have about the commitment from the Russians, and also talking about security guarantees. What would stop Russia not to do this again in 3, 5, or 10 years' time? So we'll have to wait and watch how this evolves, Anjali. But as I said, I think good thing is that they're finding each and every opportunity to keep the pressure on both Russia and Ukraine to get this peace deal. And then, as President Trump himself said, it's not about truce anymore. They want to stop the war. They don't want to go back to a truce and then keep negotiating. They just want to end the war. So we'll see, what Russians basically react. And I think a lot depends on what what comes out of President Trump's conversation with Vladimir Putin, and then when the European leaders visit Washington, D.C. in the new year.
All right, Rohit, thank you so much for all those details. So it's not about truce anymore. It's about ending the war. Trump and Zelensky claim that they're very near to end this war between Russia and Ukraine. All eyes are now on the Russian side.